This is Johan for horsehoofhelp.com. Today I would like to bring you another video about our horse's hooves. We're going to take a look at how the hoof strikes the ground and specifically address toe strike, flat landing, and then the all-important heel strike. Actually, I want to show you what it looks like when it really happens, at the moment of it happening. So you can recognize it when you see it, whether it's out in the paddock or at a show or wherever you are. So let us start with toe strike, as that's really the bad one. Obviously, toe strike is when the hoof strikes the ground toe first, and that's generally due to the breakover being too late. Why does this happen? As the foot leaves the ground late, the leg doesn't have a chance to extend and get the foot out of the way before the toe strikes the ground. Look at the angle of the leg here in this picture, with the toe already digging into the ground. You can see how bowed it is. I think it should be obvious that if there was more time, the leg would have extended and the hoof then landed flat or on its heel. Long toes and high heels are often what cause toe strike, as this affects the breakover. Watch the leg angle in this picture, as well as how the hoof is pointed to go straight down. Here's a series of pictures so you can see frame by frame what it looks like when the horse strikes toe first. The horse can't help itself. With a breakover late, he barely has time to get his foot in front of him when already he's got to bear weight on it. And then something more happens. As he puts his toe down like that, remember his heel's in the air now, the leg absolutely snaps backwards with the weight of the horse and the force of the horse's weight on it to get the heel back on the ground or on the ground. This causes a huge amount of pressure on the navicular bone from a deep digital flexor tendon that runs behind it. And we won't get into that, but suffice to say that as this happens with every step, there's a chance that this horse could land up with navicular syndrome. While toe striking is most prevalent in the front feet, you can watch these pictures and you'll see that even the back feet are toe striking. It therefore stands to reason that we can alter the breakover with our trim, and in that way we can speed the hoof up so that it can land more like nature intended, as in heel strike or at worst flat landing. Okay, so now we get to flat landing. This is when the horse brings his feet down parallel to the ground when they land, as opposed to toe striking, which we just saw. In this picture we see that there's no spraying of sand, which would indicate a toe strike in this sandy round pen. The breakover is faster now because I've shortened the heels and the toes bit by bit over a period of time, and I always make sure that the horse is 100% sound before taking off anymore. This to me is very important. I absolutely have to make sure that the horse remains sound and exercised. If we sacrifice movement through our trim, then we just set the healing process back tremendously. Time is not important. In some cases the hooves got to that condition from years of neglect and bad trimming and so on, and it's not up to us to rush the healing process. It's also very much an individual thing. No two horses are the same in their feet, and very often, or most often I can actually say, no 2 feet are the same even on the same horse. But horses are not the same in their habitat, in their metabolism, in their feeding, in their exercise, and so on and so on. And it will therefore take different amounts of time to heal. While I'm extremely patient when it comes to healing of the hoof, I'm also very careful not to procrastinate when it's time for a trim. Patience to me is as important as the trim itself. You just got to know when to practice what. Okay, so let's take a look at 4 frames from a video of the same horse flat landing. In the first picture here, we can already see that the leg isn't bowed as much as it was with the toe strike. The hoof is also more ground parallel because the extensor tendon in the front of the leg has the time to pull the hoof up, and this obviously gives the deep digital flexor tendon at the back of the leg time to rest. In the second picture, we see the leg extending even more while the foot is still in the air. This is what a better breakover gives us, just right there. It allows the earlier lift of the foot after the step, and therefore enough time for the horse to bring his feet forward for proper landing. In the third picture, we see even more leg extension, and the hoof now is almost on the ground. Can you see that the hoof is now ground parallel, and that from here it can only land flat? And that's exactly what happens. The hoof lands flat on the ground. This is already so much better than the toe strike. All this time the deep digital flexor tendon has been resting. Its work only starts with lifting the hoof to bring it forward after the step. And now compare that to the interference that occurred between the navicular bone and the deep digital flexor tendon during toe strike, and I'm sure that you'll see the value in making sure your horse does not toe strike. Here's the same sequence we watched frame by frame, just in slow motion video, so you can learn to recognize when this is the way that your horse moves. Make sure that you watch only one foot at a time while the video shows the horse in motion. You can replay the video and watch another foot, but only watch one at a time. Follow it with your eyes. Try to blur out everything else around the hoof that you're watching, and you'll see exactly how it strikes the ground. It takes a little practice, but it's a worthwhile skill to acquire in order to know how well yours is going. Not only does his foot land flat on the ground now, but watch how his legs are extending because the breakover is better, and there's now enough time for the foot to get out in front of the horse before he has to put it down. He already has so much better actual hoof mechanism inside the hoof as well. And when we're talking about hoof mechanism, we're talking about the contracting and the expanding of the hoof. The contraction, because there's no weight on it when he lifts the foot up, and expanding when he's got all the weight on it. And this is the expansion and contraction is just so important because it brings about blood flow in and out of the hoof. Did you notice how he seems to be like floating in the air? Such smooth movement comes from a horse that's extremely comfortable. Now, here's a picture of a zebra, which I took in Africa recently. Can you see the extension and how far the foot is out in front of the zebra while it's still in the air? That's just as natural as it gets. This zebra has never seen a rasp, and his hooves have just been formed purely by nature, what he eats and the miles he moves every day. I'd really like to encourage you to watch your horse and learn to recognize the way your horse's feet strikes the ground, and other horses as well. Watch them all, and I'm sure you will just now because you know. But you'll be amazed at how easy it becomes after a while when you see a horse go just to see, oh, he's toe striking or flat landing or heel striking. You will also be amazed at how many horses you see toe striking. And here finally we see the heel strike. Actually, this one is still in the making at the time of the video, but you can already get the idea. Focus your eyes on the left front only and you'll see the heel strike. You'll also notice other things. Look how the horse is almost throwing his feet forward in natural extension, landing heel first. And then notice how when he goes into the turn, the hoof lands more on the quarters than heel to toe. We'll get more into that in the trimming section, but for now I just want you to take note of that. Now all the inner structures work the way they should. There's proper expansion and contraction, proper displacement inside the foot, and therefore proper shock absorption. On the outside, you'll see the heels expanding, and the frogs will get wider over time. And you can feel the digital cushion hardening up as well, which means on the inside the lateral cartilages will get thicker and filled with blood vessels. And the digital cushion will firm up and be able to work as nature intended. I've actually got another YouTube video on the channel where I compared two hooves. It's called Digital Cushion Comparison. There you can see what all this is about. But keep watching how your horse's hooves strike the ground, because that can change all the time and you need to be on top of it. Remember the wild zebra earlier on? Okay, so now let's take a look at the feet. The feet on the ground shows us clearly how low the heels are. You can also get an idea of hoof shape from the lifted one. I'm not saying you should trim your horse to the shape of this wild zebra, or your horse's hooves to the shape of this wild zebra, just that you should appreciate nature the way it was intended. And talking about nature, here's a treat for you just for watching all the way through. This is a picture I took of a giraffe crossing our path on the recent African safari. Again we see the low heels and short toes, and by the way, no flares. The foot on the ground shows us an excellent angle of the dorsal hoof wall, and look at that heel strike coming on the back foot. Giraffes have split hooves like cows, but nature still works the same. Well, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and until next time, this is Johan for horsehoofhelp.com.